How's it going, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to be going over how I build my weapon setups for videos and how you can start making overpowered weapon builds of your own. So let's get straight into it. Now to start things off, I want to clarify that when fully built, a lot of weapons can feel very similar. The weapons in this game are decently balanced, but it's still very possible to get beamed by a guy using an SMG from over 100 meters away. But my point is, you can take what you learned from this video and apply it to nearly any weapon. Since that is the case, it'll be important for you to find a weapon with base stats that'll complement your playstyle. A lot of weapons actually have pretty similar TTKs, so finding a weapon with more ideal recoil and handling is going to matter a bit more. In my case, I'll be showing off the AK-12 assault rifle, since it's a great replacement for the M4, especially since the M4 was recently nerfed. On the other hand, the AK-12 was recently buffed. Now this AR does 24 damage to the body and 45 damage to the head, still delivering a time to kill between 0.32 and 0.16 seconds, but this damage buff should give you a better TTK at further ranges. Besides that, this AR offers a fire rate of 735 rounds per minute and a 550 meter per second muzzle velocity. The damage range drop off isn't terrible for the weapon either, first dropping off at 30 meters, then again around 40 or 45 meters, and so on. The recoil starts completely vertical, but slowly sways to the right. The handling is okay, but it could be a bit better. The stability is pretty average. The breath sway range is a bit better than other ARs, but everything else is pretty similar to other weapons, and the accuracy is decent enough to not need to worry about it. So let's get into the attachments. I like to start with the barrel for all my builds. I do this mostly because barrels cause the biggest stat change on every weapon, as well as the mags, so it's important to get these attachments on first. And from there, I mostly choose attachments to balance these changes out. For example, I could go for a short to mid-range build with a frontline barrel, and it'll increase the base control by 4 points, the handling by 6 points, and the accuracy by 8 points, with a 6-point reduction in stability. Or I could use the elite bipod barrel for a longer range setup. This barrel will increase the damage range by 5 meters while increasing the muzzle velocity to 633 meters per second, and adding 7 points in control and 6 points in stability, with a 10-point reduction to handling and 12 points to accuracy. Both of them obviously have their strengths and weaknesses, but for this build, I'm going to choose the frontline barrel since the changes aren't as intense. And now that we have this barrel equipped, we won't need to worry so much about handling and accuracy until later on. The recoil pattern is still the same more or less, so let's focus on shrinking this pattern down whichever way you prefer. The best attachments you can use are the Bastion and Sandstorm compensators, the RKO and Resonant foregrips, or the K1 Elite and Secret Order foregrips. The Sandstorm compensator, RKO foregrip, and Resonant foregrip will increase your vertical recoil control, firing stability, and camera shake, which is going to be your visual recoil. The Resonant foregrip will give you a better increase to vertical recoil control than the RKO foregrip, but it will decrease your overall horizontal recoil control. The Bastion compensator, K1 Elite foregrip, and Secret Order foregrip will do the same thing but with horizontal recoil, with the Secret Order foregrip decreasing your vertical recoil control. The X25U foregrip is also a great choice, as it does increase your vertical and horizontal recoil control, but it doesn't improve your firing stability or visual recoil. It'll actually decrease the overall stability and handling of the weapon. If you do want to use this foregrip, then a good attachment to counter the reduction in stability is the Spiral Fire muzzle, since this attachment increases your overall stability and firing stability, with some muzzle flash concealment for improved visuals during gunfights. I have to admit, I've experimented the least with the foregrip and muzzle attachments, but there are plenty of them that could easily elevate your build, so take some time experimenting in the firing range to see what's comfortable to you. But I think I'm going to choose the Spiral Fire muzzle and K1 Elite foregrip. Real quickly, let's go over the mag. The first thing to keep in mind is the mag assist. This attachment is not available on drum mags, so you'll only be able to utilize it on regular 30 or 45 round mags, with the exception of the 60 round AR mag, which is only available on certain weapons for now. The mag assist only increases your handling by 1 point, but you'll see later on how big of a difference 1 point can make. For the mags themselves, you could go for a 45 round mag, which will usually decrease your control, handling, and stability, but it can still be really viable depending on what you're building. This mag actually only decreases control by 3 points, the handling by 5 points, and the stability by 2 points, which is actually a lot better than other extended mags. But since I want to go for a shorter range build, I'm going to use the 30 round polymer mag, which is actually going to increase my handling by 6 points, with the mag assist bringing this up to 7 points in total. Next up, we'll take a look at the stocks. My favorite stocks would be the Elite Light stock, both of the Cardinal stocks, the Practical Stable stock, and the Core Rail stock. One thing these attachments have in common is that none of them have negative attributes that'll decrease your build stats. Ideally, you should go for stocks like these if you're already pretty comfortable with your build up to this point. If you think you could get more out of your build, then using stocks like the Spec Ops stock, the MRGS stock, either of the 416 stocks, the Skeleton Sniper stock, or the AK-19 stock could really help improve your build. These stocks will have some better performance gains for whatever you're looking for. For obvious reasons, there will be a negative trade-off, which will usually be pretty significant as well. But because this build is already pretty well built, I'm going to use the MRGS stock to increase handling and stability just a bit more. Taking a look at the grip now, I honestly have a hard time picking out a grip for my builds, so I tend to lead towards the heavy tower grip, since it gives your build an extra point in control, stability, and handling, with 4 points in accuracy. You could add the balanced base, which doubles those numbers, giving you 2 total points to control, handling, and stability with 8 points in accuracy, or you could choose the stable base, which improves your control by 2 points and your stability by 7 points, with a 5-point decrease in handling, giving you a 3-point increase in control, a 4-point decrease in handling, and an 8-point increase in stability. The heavy tower grip and stable base are definitely some top-notch attachments for long-range builds, but I'm looking for something that'll improve the short to mid-range potential of this build. The Scorpio grip will add 6 points in control, which is great if you just want to improve your recoil control. The RK3 grip and practical grip will give you extra points to control and handling. The stable grip adds 4 points to control, and the marksman grip adds 4 points to stability. But the most popular grip I see people using is the skeleton grip. This grip is definitely a good choice if you're building a longer range setup, but since my handling is already pretty high, I think I'll just go for the AK marksman grip to increase my stability even more. As for a sight, just choose whatever you want. I like to use the panoramic or Cobra red dots because the reticle is relatively small and there isn't much hindering my vision while I'm aiming, but there are a lot of other great sights to use. It just depends on your preference. Next up, we have the charging handle, the rail slots, and the patch slots. For the charging handle specifically, there's no reason not to equip it, since it slightly increases handling with no downsides. The unfortunate thing is the charging handle isn't available to all the weapons in the game. As far as I'm aware, you can only use the charging handle on the 3 AKs, the Vityaz, and the Bison. For the rail slots, I'll leave the left slot alone, and I'm going to use the right rail slot to utilize a laser. Honestly, you can put a laser wherever you'd like, but since your gun is always twisted to the right while tag stancing, it just makes it a bit easier to line up your shots on target with the laser on the right side compared to the left. For the patches themselves, I like to use these to top off on any stats that may be lacking in comparison to everything else. And since stability and accuracy are the lowest stats, I'm going to use the left, right, and top patch slots to increase the stability with the KC Hound panels. And for the top rail slot, I'm going to equip a Hornet panel to increase my accuracy. In total, before we get into calibrating this build, you'll get a vertical control multiplier of 0.92 and 0.78 for the horizontal recoil, with the firing stability being brought down to 0.89. The ADS speed has been decreased by 82 milliseconds and the sprint to fire by 111 milliseconds, with the 0.45 meter per second increase to ADS movement speed. The breath sway range is reduced to 0.23, with the hold breath duration being increased to 29 seconds, and the hold breath recoil reduction is reduced to 0.77. The movement stability is down to 0.65, and the lens firing stability down to 0.48, and the standing spread will be reduced to 2.12, and the max fire spread is reduced to 5.28. The panels are the most crucial part of a build in my opinion, since they can easily change how a build feels. Let's say I wanted a bit more control. Instead of using a Hornet panel, I'm going to equip the Ranger panel for 1 more point in control. This will bring the accuracy down to its base value, but my vertical control will go from 0.92 to 0.9, and the horizontal recoil will go down from 0.78 to 0.76, which doesn't seem like a huge difference on paper, but in game you'll actually notice a pretty big difference from 1 point alone. If I put a second Ranger panel on, I could bring the vertical control down to 0.88, and the horizontal control down to 0.75, with the firing stability going down to 0.88 as well, which is going to be even more noticeable while engaging in gunfights in-game. But you can see while firing, the stability is noticeably worse just from losing 1 point. Now let's move on to calibration. This is something I stayed away from for a while because of the nightmare that was Modern Warfare 2, but weapon calibration in this game compared to Modern Warfare 2 is night and day in my opinion. You don't have to rely on some stupid chart to try and tune your weapons. In this game, it literally just tells you the percentage of what you're changing. So if I wanted more muzzle velocity on my barrel, I could just increase it by 1 or 2%, and I know that there's a 1-to-1 trade-off with ADS movement speed. So in my case, I'll increase the muzzle velocity by 2% on the dot, and in trade, I'm going to lose exactly 2% ADS movement speed. For the muzzle velocity, I like to keep it around 550 meters per second at the lowest, but for this build, I want it to be a little closer to 600 meters per second, so I'm going to increase the muzzle velocity by about 3.6%. I would personally add another 2% in control and 2.24% in movement stability on the foregrip. I like to increase control on my rear grip as much as possible, since in trade, I lose 18% stability while breathing. And since there's a steady aim feature, you should almost never be getting into gunfights without holding your breath. Besides that, I'm going to increase the movement stability by about 1.6%. For the stock, I'm going to increase the firing stability by 1.92%, and I'm going to increase the ADS movement speed by 4%. On most stocks, you can actually only increase control and firing stability, but there is an exception for this stock and both of the Cardinal stocks, which is another reason why I like these stocks so much. Now with the weapon calibration in place, this build has a 570 meter per second muzzle velocity, with the vertical control multiplier being reduced to 0.85, the horizontal control is reduced to 0.7, and the firing stability is reduced to 0.86. The ADS speed is decreased by 68 milliseconds, with the sprint to fire times still sitting with a 111 millisecond reduction, and the ADS movement speed is increased by 0.5 meters per second. The breath sway range is increased, sitting at 0.31, the hold breath duration is up to 29 seconds, and the recoil reduction while holding your breath is reduced to 0.77, with the movement stability sitting at 0.61, and the lens firing stability sitting at 0.48. And since none of the calibrations mess with the accuracy, it's still sitting at 2.12 and 5.28. Even with the abundance of attachments we can use on each weapon, the gunsmith is very simple and easy to figure out in this game, in comparison to Call of Duty. The same goes for weapon calibration. It's very easy to understand what's being changed while you're fine-tuning your attachments. And since a lot of weapons feel very similar to each other, it's pretty easy to take this thought process and apply it to other weapons in-game. It does take a bit of time in the firing range or in battle practice, so be patient to figure out what really works for you. I definitely had a hard time trying to figure out how I should go about making this video for a while now, so let me know in the comments if you enjoyed watching or if this helped you in any way. I was originally planning on using the M4 since it was one of the best ARs in the game, but the devs actually decided to nerf it, so I went with the next best thing, which is the AK-12. This AR is genuinely slept on, so I'll have the share code for this build in the description for anybody wanting to try out something different. If you don't want to take the time to build weapons on your own, then check out my playlist on other weapon builds in Delta Force. There isn't a whole lot to say besides that, so be sure to like and subscribe for more top-notch setups like this in the future, and with that out of the way, I'll see you all next time.